I am Sean Webb, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Rock Goddess, and I am rolling with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Dave Meltzer, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hey, this is Brant Menswar, and you are listening to Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back. I'm Trey Downs, and this is Your Superior Self. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. Thank you for downloading this episode. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe and leave a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast from. It helps me get this out to those who may need it the most. And today we're talking about mental wellness and mental health. So a lot of people definitely need to hear some of the feedback that I've given in this episode about my journey with depression and anxiety. And then Sarah Noll Wilson joins us today to talk about her struggles and her journey with mental wellness. It is something that I think that goes under the radar for the majority of this country and this world. I think it's looked upon as something that we can control, when it in reality is something that we struggle with. And I think more awareness needs to be brought to that. I have not found a solution for my depression. I don't look at it as a hindrance. I look at it as an opportunity to get closer with God, with the universe. And how I do that is becoming more aware to it when I'm in it. I don't really realize I'm in it until like a couple days have gone by and I feel stuck or in a rut, or my wife tells me, you might want to take a moment to, go and be alone or, work some things out. However, biologically, I've become more educated on what the body does when I'm in these states and how my body reacts and my mind reacts to some of the thoughts and some of the feelings and some of the chemical reactions. And what has helped me, of course, but honor it, I should say. Like, it is a part of me. It's not going anywhere. I have to honor it in a way that gives me more confidence with it. Like, I understand that it is a part of me and I have to love it. And the way that I can kind of pull myself out of it is by turning my mind in on itself and realizing what is happening to my body and just be with it and be patient. And there's this saying that has really helped me guide me through a lot of moments in my life where I thought I wasn't going to be able to, get out of that particular mood or I guess a mindset. And it goes a little something like this. I need to get a tattoo or something like that. But this too shall pass is something that is a saying that has been very important to me over the course of this podcast and in life as well. I mean, we think that the storm lasts forever when we're in it. And it feels like it's going to last forever. And we get lost in it. And it's hard to see the sunshine. It's hard to see the end of it, but it will pass. And that is with everything in life. And that is why, when I've been studying the Buddhism mystical texts, and a lot of it has to do with being in the moment and being present and being patient with your emotions and realizing that suffering is caused in all areas of our life by certain things. Some are attachments, and sometimes it's because of our bodies and the way that our bodies release certain chemicals more so than others. And it's just something that we have to live with. We continue to live with, but it's not something that you have to be ashamed of. You should honor it. And my suffering, my depression, has definitely brought me closer to God, because that is when I need that inspiration the most. And it has helped me and has guided me throughout my life in areas that I thought that were going to how do I word this? In areas that I thought that were going to crush me. I thought that I was my depression, and I thought that this, I guess, that defined who I was. And it's hard. And the more that I learn that I am not this, the ego, nor the body, that I am something higher, the more that I can kind of get that power back for myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I said, I have not found the solution for depression. It is something that I struggle with in this incarnation, in this physical realm. And it is something that, I don't look at it as a negative anymore. I look at it as an opportunity to become stronger as a being, being of consciousness, and opportunities for myself to become stronger with my relationship with the universe or God or Ram or whatever you call that higher authority. It is something that is a part of me. And yeah, I'm excited about where this goes. There's actually a story that Ram Dass talks about, where he I guess it's like a psychoanalyst was speaking with a client, and the client, or the patient, I should say, was like, "Yeah, I'm depressed. I am totally depressed." He's like, "Okay, you're depressed. Where in your body are you not depressed?" I'm depressed everywhere. In my entire body, I am depressed. There's not one part of my body that's not depressed. Okay. Are you aware that you're depressed? Yes, of course I'm aware I'm depressed. How can I not be aware that I'm depressed? It's in my entire body. Okay. Is the person or the thing that is aware, is that depressed? No, it's not depressed. It's just aware. It's aware of the fact that my body is depressed. And that is like what clicked for me. That awareness of the depression, that awareness that I am being depressed, which means to me that I am not the body that is depressed. I am the awareness that is in this incarnation, that I am in this body. I am aware of the thing that is making me depressed. I am aware of the depression. And so that has given me more power. It's giving my power back whenever I feel like I'm in that rut. I can kind of, like I said, turn my brain in on itself, or I should say, not my brain, but turn my awareness around on myself, and realize that it is not the being that I am that is depressed. It is the body. It is the mind. The mind and the body are not who I am. The ego is not who I am. It is the awareness. That is my true nature. That is my true being. And that is not depressed. And so I can watch it. I can watch myself and what my body does when I get into these states of being, and kind of just sit with it and just honor it and just say, okay, this too shall pass. Yeah, that's some pretty powerful stuff. And I apologize for going on a long rant, but I'm very passionate about mental wellness and mental health, as is today's guest, Sarah Noll Wilson, which I want to give you a preview of our conversation.
And I remember, I'll never forget it. We were literally sitting on a lake, and, we're getting sunburned because it's April, and it's, my skin from Iowa is just getting revealed to the sun. But he had panic attacks. And I remember just crying, like, I feel out of control. I don't know. And he said something to me at the time that I didn't appreciate. And he said, what if this is your body's way of like shedding? Like, what if this is opening you up to an experience of like what your next chapter is? And I remember being like, well, this sucks. I don't want to go through this to get to my next chapter. And while the first 9 months of it were really, really hard, what came as a result of it, and really, really has shaped who I am, is learning and really understanding compassion, really understanding how to be present when things are uncomfortable. I mean, like you, I would turn to just being busy. That was my defense mechanism, is I would just keep being busier and busier, because if I was busy with stuff, then my brain couldn't settle enough.
Of course, the ego doesn't want us to feel discomfort or pain. It keeps us busy, keeps us motivated towards achieving different things, so we can feel all this dopamine and endorphins. Anyway, I absolutely love this conversation. It's so awesome to have her on the show. Sarah Noll Wilson. Check her out. Head over to my website, though. I want to know what you guys are up to, how you guys are doing on this journey called life. TreyDowns.com. Follow me on Instagram at TDowns80. Let me know how you guys are doing. And let me know what you think about this conversation. So without further ado, here is that conversation with the great and powerful Sarah Noll Wilson.
Hi, Superior Nation. This is Sarah Noll Wilson, and this is your Superior Self.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining this show. Like I've been waiting for this all day. How are you?
I'm very fulfilled.
I know, like you just, I can feel that radiance. Like I can feel like the energy coming through the Zoom camera. Like I know you just got done doing a huge event, and I appreciate your time. Like I know you're all fired up about that.
I am, and then I'll crash.
Yeah. Just give me
okay. I know
50 minutes.
Yeah, I got you. Don't worry.
So what are you up to? How are you?
I'm good. I feel like what I'm up to in this moment, it's a loaded question. I'm trying to ride the waves. I'm trying to stay connected to things. I'm trying to, stay connected to my resilience and do the work that is meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think meaningful work. I think that's always the goal, right? But it's hard to find. Like it's hard for us to even realize that sometimes. Like you are a coach, you have clients. Talk about that. Like what started you down that coaching pathway? Like why coaching and what inspired that?
It's actually it's a very personal journey that led me to coaching. I was already in the world of leadership development and interested in how do I help the people who are in positions of power, like have more impact on the humans they serve. So my philosophy of leadership is very much your job is to serve the people who are doing the work. And one of the defining moments in my personal journey was I had a really significant mental health challenge and I developed panic disorder. And that is where I really connected with self-care, getting curious, being compassionate, non-judgment, and mindfulness, right? And that I was fortunate enough to work for some leaders who were coaches themselves and realized that there was this beautiful connection of the personal work I was doing that I could show up in the same way and give space for other people to show up that way as well. So that was actually like what opened the door for me to explore the coaching outside of just doing workshops and keynotes and that type of work.
Interesting. Panic disorders. Oh man, I don't know. I think I've had one or two of those. I deal a lot, I definitely have a line of, depression in my family, anxiety, panic issues. I feel like I've had them, but what triggers yours? Like obviously that's something that I don't know. I don't think it ever goes away. I think you can kind of, try to implement things in your life to kind of how do you say it? Mitigate those. But I don't think you fully get rid of it, right? Like depression for me is something that I'm going to battle with my entire life just because of, chemical imbalances. But for you, like what triggered them for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like mental health is something I'm incredibly passionate about and very, open about. With panic doesn't always get triggered by something. Sometimes, and you would know if you had a panic attack, because a panic attack's different than like an anxiety attack. Anxiety might just feel like worked up, but panic attack, your brain literally feels a sense of impending doom. Like that's the like clinical description of it, a sense of impending doom. So imagine having repeated episodes of that. But you're right in the sense that it's about mitigating, managing it. One of the ways that I describe it is I've just learned how to have a different relationship with it. And so sometimes I've learned now over the last 7 years, there might not be one specific thing that will trigger it, but I know that if I'm not sleeping well, I know that if I'm not, exercising right now in COVID, I know if I'm not connecting with people in a meaningful way, that can really impact my energy. And so my anxiety, though, that can compound it, that's usually because I'm stressed about something irrational about my health. So that's my pattern. There's always a pattern with anxiety.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Like I get into ruts. I call them ruts. Like whenever I'm not doing something, like if I feel like I'm not being productive, like that's my, like my flaw. Like if I don't feel like I'm doing enough, then I fall into these ruts where I feel, I don't know, like there's something missing. Like there's something I should be doing something. I don't feel, enough. I feel lack of, and like you said, the key word that you said was mindfulness. And like, I've really been trying to get a hold of that, and being able to turn myself around on myself, like my brain around on itself, and notice that and say, all right, like you said, you have a different relationship with your panic attacks. Like I had to have a different relationship with my depression or my anxiety, and say, all right, well, it's never going to go away, but I got to be able to identify it, and then kind of accept it, right, and see it, right, and just live. Just kind of like, all right, that's what's going on with me, because sometimes I didn't really know that's what it was, like I just kind of felt, and people were like, snap out of it, and you can't do that.
Well, and depression is a whole, that's a different beast altogether too, because often, exactly what you hit on, you don't even know, because the thoughts are a little bit different. It's about your sense of self-worth, right? Like your motivation, your excitement. And research shows that it takes about 10 years on average where people will experience symptoms of depression before they're finally diagnosed. And I think that, so I just want to acknowledge your journey, and I really appreciate the fact that we can talk about this. And I just lost my train of thought. But about accepting it. Yeah. So then that's my ADHD.
Squirrel.
Well, yeah, true. Not like jokingly flippant, but
I'm the same way.
Full on. But it is. Oh, there's so much to unpack in what you said. Two things that I'd like to respond to is, one, that just building that acceptance of, it's not resignation, it's not being a victim to it, but it's, how do I want to show up with it, knowing that this is who I am. When I was first experiencing it, and it did feel like a flip got switched in my brain, right? It was like something shifted, and then I started to have anxiety about having anxiety. So it became this loop, right? And I would find myself early on, and I don't know if this is true of your experience, but I would find myself saying things like, I wish I didn't have to deal with this. I wish that I I just want to go back to normal. I just want to go back to where I was. And what I realized is, every time I was fighting it, and the kind of the technical term was, I was grasping for something that wasn't really there. I was actually making myself worse. And it took me a long time, and good therapy, and a great husband who could help me point out those moments when it's like you're in the wishing pits, right? Like you're grasping. That's what my friend calls it. And it's hard, because when you know what it feels like to have those days when it's not, the app isn't running as strongly, it's exhausting when you have to feel like you fight it. But once I was able to build up the practice of observing it, of getting curious with it, even if it was uncomfortable, it's almost like it started to loosen its grip on the impact that it had.
Sure.
And some days are easier than others.
Oh, absolutely. I've been fighting back, with it. Just, I look at it as, there are days when you're definitely get the best of me, right? Like you always, there's this saying, like, some days you get the bear and some days the bear gets you.
Sure.
And I fight back, with physical fitness and running, and trying to build those endorphins. I feel like the endorphin part really helps me out. I feel like meditation, mindfulness, like being able, I always thought that I was the ego. I always thought that I was those thoughts of, I call them the bro thoughts. Like, what's up, bro? Like I thought that I was that guy, but I'm not. Like, we are not that. The ego is something that is a facade, and that's helped me. Mindfulness, I think, feeling it too has really helped me. Like, I would run away from it. Like, I would run away from that. I would be shameful of, like, the, the negative feelings, the bad feelings, the guilty feelings, all that, you know, that grayness. I would just feel so guilty and feel, and not want to feel it, and try to mask it with either, alcohol or whatever, just to bring myself out of that, as I have a beer right now. But I'm good today. I'm good. I'm having a great day.
Enjoying and savoring is different than
Yes.
numbing, right?
Absolutely.
Numbing is different.
But that's the thing, right? Like, just not know. And that was before I really knew what was going on with me, right? Like, so, like, I would do that to boost my energy. Like, I would, tie one on one night with the boys, because I didn't know what was going on with me. Like, I just felt like, I didn't know that was depression, or didn't know, I had no idea. Like, I just was like, what is wrong? I gotta, let's smash some beers, because, like, I don't feel like myself. And the next day would be even worse, like, because you're hungover, and, I have this depression and anxiety inside of me, and I couldn't find resolution. I couldn't find that thing that would make me feel better. And but becoming more aware, like being aware to that and accepting that as a part of you, really helps you filter that greatness, filter those bad feelings, like like I said before, it just never goes away. But I think I think you might be the first person to ever openly talk about mental health on here, I think. But I appreciate
let's
your
talk
openness.
about it.
Yeah, I appreciate
I'm all
it.
in. Yeah.
Like, talk about you and your experiences with it, right? Like, how has it made you stronger?
It well, one thing I want to make sure, I can tell, like, the internet is a little, like, in and out, so if I get, just let me know and we can.
It said it's mine though, but I don't know.
I'm so excited to talk about this, because, and I really, one, before I tell my story, I mean, I appreciate you being so transparent, because I think that there is a very different experience that men have navigating it, because culturally, right, like the bro or the masculinity culture or whatever, that it's like, well, I can't be weak, I can't, and and as women, it's a little bit more socially acceptable to be emotional, or whatever the case is. And I think it's so important to have men talk about their challenges, and to own the fact that, like, it's not easy. It's funny, if I write a second, like, a book I want to write sometime, will be called "If It Weren't for My Panic, I'd Be Going Crazy." And it was a humorous survival guide to panic attacks. And when I was first going through it, and my first month, I had gotten together with a good friend of mine, his name's Shadley, and I just felt so out of control. And I remember, I'll never forget it. We were literally sitting on a lake, and, we're getting sunburned because it's April, and it's, my skin from Iowa is just getting revealed to the sun. But he had panic attacks, and I remember just crying, like, I feel out of control, I don't know. And he said something to me at the time that I didn't appreciate. And he said, what if this is your body's way of, like, shedding? Like, what if this is opening you up to an experience of, like, what your next chapter is? And I remember being like, well, this sucks. I don't want to go through this to get to my next chapter. And while the first 9 months of it were really, really hard, what came as a result of it, and really, really has shaped who I am, is learning and really understanding compassion, really understanding how to be present when things are uncomfortable. I mean, like you, I would turn to just being busy. That was my, like, defense mechanism, is I would just keep being busier and busier, because if I was busy with stuff, then my brain couldn't settle enough to think about all the stuff that I was worried about. And it made me it has completely shaped my ability to give myself grace in a way that I didn't even realize I wasn't even considering. It wasn't even on the table before that. But then as a result, and I assume this is probably true of you too, that like when I can give myself grace, when I can learn how to sit with discomfort, my own discomfort, it has opened the door for me to show up with other people in that same way. That I feel like I have way more passion, patience, way more compassion, way more like I can sit with hard stuff with people now because like I've seen some dark times with myself and I can hold that space for people. So at the time I didn't appreciate it because, the thing is when we are building resilience, we don't realize it. When we're building these muscles, it just sucks and it's painful. But looking back on it, my panic attacks were the best things that ever happened to me.
It's pretty powerful. Yeah, it sucks. Like it definitely sucks. Like, when people hear that, like to go through it, I don't know if they fully understand it. Like it's not going to be fun. Like it's not something that you want to do, but it's something that you have to experience. Like I was running from it. Like I didn't, and I think a lot of people do that.
Oh, totally.
They don't want to feel anything. And I'm not just talking about depression. I'm talking about commitment. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about, I don't know what else is out there.
Well, even just like we have sort of a toxic happiness culture, right? Where we're chasing happiness instead of like, well, that's just one of the human emotions we get to experience. That's not the only one. And
we're
not
biologically wired like that. Like we don't want to feel good. I mean, we want to feel good. We don't want to feel bad, and like what's funny is like the human mind, the brain is just so wired to be negative all the time. It's like we don't want to feel bad, but we have like no other option because the brain's like trying to attack us.
It's just constantly on alert.
Like constantly negative, but we don't want to feel pain.
Like, what's the threat?
Yes. But that's another thing too. Like I was reading some, what was it? Sapiens or something. I was reading some book on like the human chemistry and our biology and how we evolved. And basically, obviously it discussed the hunter-gatherer stage before the cognitive revolution. And it was like basically saying, the anxiety that we felt was a survival, like a tool. You felt anxiety. It was you better get your ass next to the pack, right? Because something's
get away
happening.
from the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. So we didn't exist at the same time, but yeah.
But now it's like it's different. Like I believe that to be true. I think that is science. I think that it was a survival mechanism. Now we don't have that saber-toothed tiger walking down the street, and we have Facebook, right?
Yeah, right.
So but to be a part of the tribe, you gotta have a certain X amount of followers or friends, and you got to be posting the traditional Christmas picture. And I don't know. I mean, I get wrapped up in that too. Like I get wrapped up in the fake book world where I try not to post too much, political stuff or anything like that. Like it's totally turmoil right now. But I mean, like
you can feel it in your brain, right? Like I can feel it when I'm like, oh damn it, my brain is having like a little like, come on, let's just see if you have a couple more likes. Let's, you posted something good and let's see it. And yeah, exactly.
It's the reward, I gotta, but here's the thing too. So there's been scientific studies of people going into these, and I mentioned this on here before, where they've had double-blind studies where they've had people in different rooms, and they just said, all right, start talking. So like Sarah, you go in that room, and Trey, you go in that room and just start rambling about whatever you want to do or whatever you want to talk about. And there's numbers up, there's like a ticker or something like that will show how many people are interested in what you're talking about. And there is no scientific reason about,
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, but there's no scientific, like they would say, all right, let's Sarah is the A experiment, show her the results are going up, show her the numbers are going up. And then Trey is the negative one, and show them the numbers are going down. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about. I could be reciting poetry, but if I see those numbers are going down, like my self-worth is crap. Like I feel like crap. And you could be talking about God knows what. Like, I mean, who knows? Like just
burnt yarn. I could be
Yes.
talking about burning yarn. 'Cause
Burnt
who,
yarn, and the numbers are going up, and you think, oh my God, I could start a business. Burnt
Yeah.
yarn. Everybody loves burnt yarn. Like it's just and Facebook knows that. Like they know that. Like you've seen some dumbass pictures that have gotten reshared over and over again. You're like, oh my God. Like, why didn't I post that? Like I could take a picture of a cat on a dog, like, but I mean, that's just us, right? Like we need that approval from society because our bodies have basically said over the years that that's survival. That's what we need. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the problem with that, and we know this isn't an opinion, is that our, survival brain hasn't caught up with our world. I mean, this is one of the things that, I always joke that, some people look at the world through rose-colored glasses. I joke that I look through the world through the amygdala glasses, right? Like that part of our brain that's constantly on alert and constantly.
I have red glasses on.
Yeah, no, I know you do. And I wish I was wearing my amygdala t-shirt because that would have been perfect. But but understanding that it's one of the things that I'm so passionate about personally when I'm working with people one-on-one, but when I'm working with leaders is to help them understand that human complexity and to understand the brain and to understand, so the amygdala, and part of that was the fact that when I was going through my panic attack, one of the ways I was trying to make sense of it was I wanted to understand it, right? And that's where I got introduced to the amygdala. So you'll appreciate it. So I had a t-shirt made because I'm a t-shirt girl, and that said, I heart my amygdala. And just to wear it, to like anchor it, like I'm going to embrace this little part of my brain that is constantly like threat, threat. And so I think that it's so important for people to understand how the world is gone way faster than how we're wired. Mm-hmm. And how that's contributing to so much of the like challenges we're experiencing. It's just because biologically we're not able to keep up.
It takes forever for like, I'm just kind of worried about like when we finally do catch up, like what's the world going to be like? It's crazy. Like, and what are we going to evolve into that is the world now? Like you think about, I don't know. You think about I just been reading Sapiens, so like I definitely have all that fresh data in my head, and I'm just thinking about we used to have the Neanderthals, right? Like they were our brothers and sisters. They were a part of our species, right? And they're gone, and then you have us, Homo sapiens. Like what's next? And like it's just kind of like worrisome. Like you got Elon Musk talking about putting chips in people's heads that are going to be like faster than Google, like
right.
I don't know where we're going.
I don't want to see that. Well, I watched the documentary that's out now on the Social Network, I think is what it's called. And I don't know if you've seen that, but no, it's pretty compelling and depressing. But one of the points, and I don't remember who made it, that was really provocative for me was we now have a whole generation of young people who have never not known social media, who have never not known what you were talking about earlier of that constant like self-worth tied to likes and right, like that tribe in the sense. And it was this moment of, man, what does that mean? They won't know. And, I'm trying not to be like an old person, like, well, in my day, we didn't have the internet, but their brains are changing. And it's like, well, what will that mean? And we already know that it means they're seeing an increase of anxiety and depression, right? And disconnection and delayed and, in their movements. And I think that there's a lot of great things that are happening in our world, but there's certainly a lot of things that are, I don't know where it's going to take us. Don't know who we're going to be.
Like bullying, online bullying is like, through the roof. Teenage suicides, like, and suicide, you think about it, like that goes against everything that we are biologically. Like we are here to survive. Like that is the main
our
reason
brain's
why
job
we're here.
is to keep
like
us
our
alive.
job is to keep us alive. Like taking your own life doesn't match up with our biological hardware. Like it's just think about that. Like it's just crazy. I don't know, but I'm excited. Like I look at my kids now. I have 3 of them. And it's just a different world, like my son, my 10-year-old son, like the kids aren't playing. And a lot of people can relate to this. Like the kids aren't playing out in the streets anymore. They're online playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
That's where their friends hang out. Like that's just, it is what it is, like you just got to accept it and kind of understand that we're in a new world. Like I find myself doing that too. So like sometimes like, why don't these kids play out back or ride their bikes? It's just like,
yeah. Like, oh, we used to play outside, and you got to get outside. And it's like, well, that's not their world,
Well, we used to ride bikes. We used to have trampolines. We used to, I'm 37. So we used to, we used to go for walks. Pegs were a big thing back in the day. And my parents are like, looking at me like we had a tin can and a stick, like it's just generationally like different. Right.
Yeah. And there's always going to be things that are good about it. And there's always going to be like consequences to it. Just like there always has been.
Like I kind of like it. There's no mess, right? Like, so my son plays online. I don't have to worry about his friends coming over and eating all my food.
Oh, sure.
Like that's fine. Like I'm cool with that. Like they get, hey, dinner time, log off. Tell your friends you got to go. And I don't have to clean anything up. It's great.
Sure.
Back in the day, like
I haven't heard that perspective, but I appreciate it.
Back in the day, hanging out with your friends, like you would go over their houses and hang out for the day, just make total mess, eat all the frozen Hot Pockets and drink all the soda and just be hey, can we spend the night? Hey, you would do that. You would try to play against their parents and be like, hey, right. It's okay for us to spend the night. Let's spend the night.
And then you had to make sure you asked while your friend was in the room, because it was harder for mom to say no when your friend was in the room. Like I knew all the strategies of how to weasel that. Well, I think, like you and I are similar age, I'm a couple of years older, but we're in that time of like, we had a leg in both worlds, right? Like we were the last generation to kind of have a leg in, in both worlds, which is just an interesting place to be.
What was your first cell phone?
I love this question. A Nokia.
The snake? You had the snake game on that thing?
Yeah. And fun fact, my cell phone number is exactly the same as it's been since I was 16.
So is mine. How crazy is since I was 16 years old. I had, I had the phone that was from Verizon that had like the removable skins you can put on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had an orange skin.
Yeah,
it was like orange and blue.
I may have had orange as well, maybe red or something like that. But and text messages cost like $1 million back then. It was crazy.
It was for emergency only.
Yeah, and you had to call within the network, so I could only call my mom or something like that.
Right. Oh my God. Now I love how old we are.
But thank you. It's great. Like in my daughter, she's the youngest is going to be 2 in December. So like, just imagine where technology will be then. Like, it's crazy. Like I'm excited. Like I'm excited for you because you're in that coaching speaking realm, right? And I think Stephen Kotler is like one of my favorite authors. And he just came out with a book not too long ago called The Future is Faster Than You Think with Peter Diamandis. And they're talking about the future of AI and virtual reality. And I think it's going to be amazing for speakers to be able to like put on a headset and then like do a speech or a talk, like, from the West Coast or East Coast, and have an avatar there that is essentially synced with their mannerisms and talking points, and like you're going to be there but you're not going to be there. Like
that's kind of how I feel I am right now in quarantine. I feel like I'm there but I'm not really there.
Well, how do you do that? So like talk to me here, right? So I'm looking at you now, no one else can see it, but you got like the little @Sarah Noll Wilson sticker at the bottom. Like how are you holding events now?
Well, I am incredibly fortunate to be quarantined with my husband, who does film and video for a living. And for years, he and I've talked about how do we collaborate. And one of the silver linings of this has been, it has given us a beautiful opportunity to partner together. So we, and it's one of the things that, it's like, okay, so full transparency, before all of this, I just didn't really understand online. I didn't really know, like, how do I mean, not online, but I mean like online training and experiences, like how do I do it different? I know how to engage with people. I'm really good engaging with people in person and having conversations, and how do you translate that? And so there was a definite evolution. And then there just hit this point where we started to figure out, and then we wanted to innovate and go, how do we do it differently? How do we up our game? How do we get people on that go, I've never had an experience like this virtually. I've never seen something look like this before. And so, I mean, I can get into technical stuff, but I don't know what are you curious about?
Oh, I like your video. It's pretty legit. Like, you look very clear, very nice. Do you think that do you have to be that technical? Like, if you're starting out as a coach, do you have to have all that tech, right? Like,
Well, no, I mean, I think, well, from a coaching perspective, and coaching's different. I mean, that's a whole different ball game than speaking, because, when I'm doing workshops or I'm doing keynotes, that's a whole different ball game. I mean, from a coaching perspective, you just need a phone. I mean, that's before all of this, I had clients who were in person, and I have had a client in Iraq, right? I had global clients, and sometimes we would use Zoom, but usually just a phone call. If you're wanting to, especially right now, because we're so fatigued with Zoom, we're so fatigued with sort of the general, look and feel, that any kind of thing you can do to lift it up, to make it feel different, also engages the people's brain. Because like, oh, this is different, and now I feel like I'm awake. That was, I had somebody tell me that the other day when you came on. It was like I woke up because it just looked and felt differently. But there are things you can do. I mean, part of it is, I think, it's not like, if you're presenting, it's not like, oh, I'm doing what I did before in person and I'm just putting it on camera. I mean, one of the things that my husband, Nick, has really challenged us to challenge me to think about is, how do you think about it almost like a TV show, but how do you do it like a TV show where you get to like build connections with people? And so I try to be really intentional about the visuals, but also like the moments of connection where it can feel real, and messy things can happen that would have happened live, and we can all laugh about it, right? It's like those human moments are what, like, oh yeah, this is real. Like, it looks really cool. And she totally just misspelled something on the board and she made shit out of herself for it. Pardon my language, and that's like, that's part of the fun. But I think that, I mean, there are simple things you can do technologically, but some of it just comes down to so here's what I'll say. So as we've moved to this virtual world, because we've had to, and you interview people all the time, right? Via this, I'm sure. And that there's this resistance, like, it's just not as good. It's just not as good. And so they put up this wall instead of going, well, what did I love about doing it in person? And how can I do that here? And how can I be okay that it's going to look a little different? Because there's things that you can do in the virtual world. And here's an example. If I'm speaking to a room of 1,000 people, I might not be able to engage with them. Maybe I can do a polling software. Maybe I'll hear from the 2 people who are comfortable speaking in a microphone. But on chat, I can hear from all of them, right? I could, there's ways that we can engage and connect. And so I think it's just being really thoughtful about the rules you've created and what's the world you want to create online.
Yeah, no, I think it's tough. I think you lose that element of, like, the energy, right? Like, I mean, you could feel like some people, me at this time, like, I can definitely, like, maybe not at episode 10, like, I might not have been able to pick up on someone's energy online or Zoom, but now I definitely can. Like, I definitely have the confidence of where I can pick up on someone in person. Like, it's like, you definitely have that natural ability to see, obviously, the nonverbal communication going on with, like, mannerisms or just kind of that vibe that you get. But I love online platform. Like, I love having conversation. Like, as soon as we're done with this, like, a hit click and boom, I'm out. Like, I don't have to worry about the lingerers, like, I don't have to worry about where people is lingering, like,
oh, see, I love the lingerers. I miss the lingerers. I miss it. Like I do. I'm like, that's what I'm always like, I'm going to do some after hours. I'm an extrovert, as you can probably pick up. So I'm energized, I'm so energized by that. But like, that is something I miss. And so I'm just like, I open up office hours. Hey, I'm going to be on for another half an hour for those of you who have questions or want to connect with me. And, it's usually one or two, but like you, I mean, I don't miss the travel.
Oh.
I miss it a little bit, but I also love the fact that when you and I are done, I get to take off my jacket and go snuggle with my dog, and, whatever one will snuggle with me, and just like hang out with my husband instead of going to a hotel by myself, right? Traveling the next day. And so there's advantages to it.
Like, I cannot, like, I wish there was a word that I could use to express how much I love online platforming. Like, it is, I think it is like, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to be able to shake your hand, which is probably a good thing now. I'm not going to be able to see what you're wearing, which is a great thing, because like now, again, like we're not in comparison, right? Like we're all kind of like at home wearing our pandemic clothing.
It's been an equalizer.
It's great. Like I love it. Like I haven't cut my hair since March. Like it's crazy. Like my hair is very long.
Me either.
Like I don't know. I just think that like you said, the equalizer, it's definitely, I think it's a great awakening, this pandemic. I mean, has definitely been negative, and we lost some people, and people have definitely, suffered from it. And I'm very sorry for that, but I am very thankful that I have my health. I'm very thankful that my wife is staying safe. She's an RN, and she's doing everything that she can to help protect us as a family. But I'm also thankful that it's helped me become more aware of what truly matters in life, and that is being in the moment.
Mm-hmm. It's am I back? Did we freeze? Are we good?
You're good. No, you're good. I'm just moving my mouse here. Technology, online platforms.
It's the song and dance. You had said something, and then I had to get distracted by the technology. Stand by. Oh, the awakening. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as somebody who works with organizations, I love how it's stripped away the masks of professionalism. I love how it's again, I don't like the consequences or what has caused this, but it has challenged companies to think differently about productivity, about rest, about humanity. It has stripped away some of those like masks, right, that we wear, because no one's going to be wearing like a 3-piece suit. And, I love when I'm on calls and the CEO's like 3-year-old daughter comes in and just sits on his lap or her lap or whatever the case is.
Love it. I'm right there with you.
And while, and obviously there's like, that's one piece of it, because I also recognize, like you, I have privilege. My husband and I both can work remotely. We have the financial means to be able to support ourselves. We haven't been impacted like some people. But an element, right, of what's happened is it has, and it's challenged us to like get really clear about what's important to us.
Sure.
Like one of the things that I've experienced is how critical connection is for me. Because when I am not connecting with people, and I don't mean through work, I get to connect with people in a meaningful, amazing ways every day. And so like my work is so sacred. Like I'm so fortunate that I get to have sacred conversations, but friends, family members, and it's so easy to not make that a priority because like, well, we can't be together. And I've just learned like, that's like lifeblood for me. Like that's my water, is being able to connect with people. And it took me, I had to get to a kind of a dark place to realize that, of like, oh, that's what I'm missing. And so it's helped me get really clear about what's important.
Sure. No, I think
that was easy
I agree
to take
with you.
For granted.
I agree with you 100%. I think now I'm having one of those moments, because there's something where I wanted to go with that connection. I think with the technology, just make sure you guys can mute your microphones when you're on a call. I think that's a major thing here. I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. But going back to that, that's what I wanted to say. Like my wife and I were having a discussion about like college. Like some people believe that they don't have to go to college. Like they're like, with technology and being able to be a coach or do something. Like a lot of CEOs of small businesses or medium-sized businesses are like, I don't need to I didn't need to go to college for this. Or a lot of people can kind of agree that they're in a field that they didn't necessarily study in. And I made this point to my wife, and I didn't really think about it when I said it, but now that more that I think about it, it makes sense. It's like, but you think about that pre-COVID, you can say that. But now that the water cooler effect is not in play anymore, like the old school guys wanted you to be in the office to rub shoulders. It wasn't like it was the water cooler. It was what you guys were discussing behind the scenes, the politics. Now that you take the politics out of it and there's no mingling in office spaces or whatever, how do you get promoted? Like, how do you, like, it's going to be on paper now. It's going to be resumes. Like when you go, like, okay, recommendations are always going to be recommendations, but like, how do you get that upper hand on someone if you don't have those degrees or you have some type of certification?
Yeah.
Like
or you're already like connected.
Yeah. The water cooler effect is a real thing. I would say probably like 75% of the promotions in this country, and I'm just pulling that number out of my ass right now, I'm sorry, but I just feel like that.
That's a very scientific place, I heard. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I mean, definitely peer reviewed. Just joking.
I love this conversation.
But I just feel like a lot of the promotions in this country are definitely water cooler effect. I don't know, but if it's gone, like now it's gone. Like, so now what? How do you get promoted, or how do you get the job?
It's something I have a lot of conversations with leaders or people we're talking about, and we don't know. We don't know how long we'll be in this. We don't know what the long-term effects are. And when I'm talking to young professionals or other people, I said, I don't know that this is true, but I mean, we're in a big experiment right now. That's the reality is. And so we have to just find different ways to experiment. I said, I can tell you as a leader, as somebody who has a team, that everything that like my colleagues do that just make my life a little easier, right, has a much bigger ripple effect right now because of everything else I'm having to navigate. And I think there will be real consequences to that. And I think there's going to be consequences because so many companies are either doing like hybrid. Some people are going back who want to, some people aren't. And there will be, unless there's intentionality, that those people who are at home could be held back. Again, not intentionally, but I mean, a lot of the organizations that I end up working with are more traditional. They're used to managing in person, and like they kind of just don't know how to manage people remotely and navigate that. And I think that like is something that we have to be super aware of.
I just don't think they have the systems in place. I don't think they have the processes. I think they're used to that over the shoulder type, cubicle to cubicle type of management. They don't know necessarily how to put the systems, the checkpoints in place to kind of go back and monitor, right, to make sure that people are meeting the timeframes or meeting their deadlines. They just don't. I don't know. I always have conversations with people, and I love having them about the pros and cons about being in the office. I am a con man when it comes to being in the office. Like you do not need to be in the office to get things done. Like I can be more productive at home. However, it's harder for me to work at home because I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They're like, well, if you're not at work, how are you getting anything done? Well, first off, the commute's gone, right? Like you think about your commute, it's essentially gone. So that's more time that you get to have back for productivity. And then now you're going to answer emails or phone calls longer in the day because you're already home and you feel better about life. You want to be more productive. You're at home, you're in your safe zone. I think that's a big key when it comes to productivity, is just the way that you feel, the type of emotions that you bring to the workplace. Like your workplace is your home, and your quality of life is going to be a lot better. So that's going to overflow into your work life, essentially.
I mean, for some people, I mean, I definitely know people who are like, this is killing me. Like, I like the separation. I like the mental separation. And that's you've been doing it for a while, and that's a hard shift for people who didn't do that and trying to figure out what are the systems and structures, at play. But I think that if you're in a situation where you can have flexibility, it makes that a lot easier. That's something that I've been really interested in tracking, is like, how has that shifted, and depending on the industry, right? Not every industry can, but just like, how can you make it a little bit more flexible? So if you have little kids, hey, there's just going to be times where I just need to be with them, but I can catch up when they're in, in bed.
Sure.
And what I see is the CEOs, the leaders who are like more flexible about what would productivity look like, especially now in the pandemic, but also just flexibility of work. The team members are far more engaged than they are when it's like, no, you got to hit these numbers 8 to 5. These are the rules. This is what it's always been and what it always will be. Those are the people who are looking at me going, I don't think I'm going to last here. I don't think this is where I want to stay.
Just out of curiosity.
One thing to that point. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Just out of curiosity, what are the CEOs that are like that? Like, are they the boomers? Are they? I mean, yeah, you're shaking your head. Yes. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of it is just a familiarity, right? We hold on to what we're familiar with. And if that's what I know, and, and I manage people by, do I see them in the office or don't I can appreciate, I mean, when people are resistant to change, it's not the change, it's the loss. Right. And so there's a loss of familiarity, a loss of control, a loss of how do I do this now? And certainly some leaders have navigated and adapted, but others are still holding on really tightly. We need to get back there. But I think what's happening now, what I'm starting to see now that we're 7 months into it is, the first couple months where we're going to get back to it, and now I'm starting to see people go, crap, we might not get back to that. And there's starting to be the shift of, okay, like, so what is it now? And I'm interested to watch that journey for,
Sure.
Them, because, the desire to get back is you can't even see it in the window anymore. You can't see it in the rear view window, and you sure can't see ahead of what's going to happen. And now there's this reality setting in of this is here to stay for a bit. So now what?
Yeah, it could take us up to, I don't know. I've seen projections up to 5 years to get, anywhere near normal, whatever normal was,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think, I think it's cool to think about, like, with the technology.
Yeah.
I think we need to utilize it and just be more aware of it and what the capabilities are, and take advantage of that. I think that this is an opportunity for us to better the quality of our lives, especially, as parents, just being able to, because post World War II, right? So there are two, like, husbands and wives work now. The societal setup is not meant for two full-time parents, right? Like it's meant for the husband, traditionally to go to work and the wife to stay home and be the caretaker. That's just the way the society was set up post World War II. And it's like, it's not that anymore. It's not, and people need to realize, CEOs especially, that you have two full-time working parents with kids that are probably, involved in sports and everything else. And it's like, what the best type of employee is the one that you take care of them first, not just the bottom line. And
Totally.
I think a lot of people are starting to realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the real consequences is we're going to get set back a little bit, because we know that the number of women who are stepping away from the workforce is astronomical compared to their male counterparts. There's some projections that we're going to lose the momentum we've gained by like 10, 15, 20 years. It's like over 500,000. Yeah. It's like there was a study report that came out from the government. I'm not going to get the numbers right, but it's something like 600,000 or 700,000 women. It's over 500,000 compared to like 70,000 men who are stepping away from the workforce. And like, that concerns me a ton, because to your point, our society still isn't set up for what it was and where I think we should go, and having that flexibility and that freedom for whoever wants to work and do what they want to do. And because it's almost like the old sort of patriarchal bed is just waiting, like it's still there. That's the foundation.
It's like they're trying to push them back in there, right? Like trying to push you guys back.
Yeah. It's, like no one's, but it's just because of the industries that have been impacted. And when, and when you look at like, like the service and retail and right, all of those are often like predominantly women. And but I think to your point, just like as leaders, again, re-examining what is it like? What does work need to look like now? I mean, this is one of the things that I love thinking about and challenging leaders on is, like our work, to your point, was built on some old systems, right? 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. Like that was an improvement from like manufacturing and days. Like that's a great improvement. But like we're different now. And like, how do we challenge the system? And how do we not only challenge the structure, but how do we challenge the culture of it? Like, what does it look like to create a company that's truly built for the humans that are within it and not for the bottom line?
I love that. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that it's a great opportunity. I think it's a great time. But it's a great opportunity for women alike to really bust through that. I think it's just finding that. It's like, coming together and just really just busting that just small mindedness, like just, I don't know. Like I'm rooting
but
for you
we're not the ones who need to bust that.
I know that.
Like we don't have that,
I know that's right.
Huh?
I know that's right.
Thank you.
Well, I see my wife and I see how hard she works. Right. And I see she's an RN and 12 hours. She's working at night. She's working overnight. And I see that. And I think about all the other moms out there that are doing the same thing. And then obviously there are times where things are just not fair. And I think that it's, it is that, right? Like that's a whole nother episode. Like it's just it's crazy. But I think that I show a lot of appreciation to you guys for just doing what it is that you guys do and just coming in every day and just working your asses off. And, and right now the pandemic, I think it's going to be a lot of opportunity for creativity, and I think that a lot of women should be taking, this time to rethink or utilize the creativity and then like kind of think of ways being like an entrepreneur, creating different businesses that benefit the society that we live in today. Like I was just talking to wasn't talking to my sister. I was talking to somebody about a new app that should have been developed during the pandemic for hairstylists. She's a hairstylist. And my mom texted me. I was like, why aren't the hairstylists like creating an app where they can go to the people that need haircuts, like a Uber for hair, right? Like, why are you not doing that? We can't come to you, but you can come to us if we're safe. So it's just like, I think there's a lot of more opportunity for creativity, but
yeah. And not just for women, right? I mean, because that's part of I hear what you're saying. I also want to, like push back a little bit, right? Like because I'm going to, it's also a really challenging time for moms and single moms. And how do we as a society challenge our thinking about things like childcare? And that these things that we have as rules of how things are supposed to and who's supposed to pay for what or whatever that looks like. Those aren't rules. Those are just one possibility. And if we want to evolve in the workforce, if we want to evolve that, we also have to evolve how we think about just like some of the structures that are in place. And I think that, I agree. It's an incredible opportunity for creativity. And that's also really challenging right now from the standpoint of our brains are exhausted and fatigued and under chronic stress. And like,
I don't know how single moms do it. I do not know.
Oh, they're like, I have a colleague and she works full time and she's just joined my squad, and is a coach, and I'm in awe of her. And but it's also exhausting. Like I also worry about her just because she's pushing so hard all the time.
Sure. Sarah, this has been an amazing episode. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate the journey that we went on.
Before we leave though, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, they can check out our website, which is sarahnollwilson.com, Sarah with an H, NOLLWILSON. But I'm also on all social platforms and I'm a big fan of just connecting with people. So don't hesitate to send me a direct message. And I will also say just a personal shout out, since we talked about mental health. If there's anyone out there who is feeling alone, who's feeling like they're, broken and they just need somebody to remind them that they're not, please, please, please just send me a message, and I'll be happy to sit with you in whatever you're experiencing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Last question, kind of a big one. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, say that again. It cut out a little bit. I heard legacy.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I'm pausing on it and thinking about it. The workshop we just did was about impact. So that's what we spent, a couple hours on. I think that, if I could somehow help more people be able to speak and stand with courage, to be able to understand their own and other people's complexity as humans. And it doesn't have to be connected back to me. Like, my legacy doesn't need to be connected to me. I don't need people to be like, oh, I learned this from Sarah. But if somehow I help people be able to have the conversations they're avoiding with themselves and others, that would be incredible.
Be more like aware to that, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be you. It just needs to be aware to the idea.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sarah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Let's try.
I want to say thank you to Sarah for joining the show. I want to say thank you to you, the listener, for hanging out. I want to say thank you to everyone who has reached out, who has left me a note about what they're up to, how they're doing. I really do enjoy finding out more about you and connecting with you as the audience member. Thank you guys so much for all that you do for the podcast. Thank you for the ratings and the reviews. It really, really means a lot to me. If you want to find out more about me, you can do that by going to traydowns.com or follow me on Instagram at tdowns80. Guys, I hope you have an amazing week. I truly mean that. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Peace and love, and I'll talk to you later.